passe super, l'artiste, super, encore un but sensationnel. That's a brilliant bit of follow-up play by Mahe. Oh my goodness me, what a shot.
Sagosen setter det hen! Han setter den! De er i semifinale igjen!
We're on the eve of another Olympic Games and handball taking center stage for Paris, and a country that has in recent times has really dominated and loved handball. Both French men's national team and the women's national team are hoping for a gold medal, and there is another 11 teams that are trying to stop them from getting there. Chris O'Reilly, you're going to be on site in Paris, soaking in the atmosphere. I'm very, very jealous. I've only been at one Olympic Games, and that was the London 2012 one, where I saw my first ever live handball game in London in the Copper Box Arena.
At an international level, you mean? You had played handball.
Yes.
Real handball, not Irish handball.
Real handball, not Irish handball, not under 16 German handball. We're talking about real handball. It was Argentina versus Great Britain. That was my first ever game, along with France. Actually, I did see France compete in that game. I think they beat Angola. I need to confirm
Tunisia?
That. There was South Korea. Definitely South Korea. So, unforgettable memories, Chris. Unforgettable memories from the Olympic Games. Hopefully you can get a few unforgettable memories yourself at this one.
Yeah, I'm really pumped. I'd been to London, like yourself, as a spectator in 2012. I went to Rio in 2016 as a spectator as well, but the first time going to work there, having an accreditation with Handball Skanalen and through the Swedish Olympic Committee, which is amazing. So I'll be writing for Go Handball, which is getting a proper launch now during the Olympics, Handball Skanalen's international site. And yeah, still we'll only really get a feel for how it will all work when getting there, in terms of who we can talk to, what the access is like. But we'll be sure to be doing some podcasts on site, courtside, in the mix zone, chatting to players and journalists, and who knows where else I'll be. I mean, fantastically, my accreditation is for all events. I don't know which fool decided to give me that, but it does mean that when I land, probably after, this podcast will come out after I've landed, but landing on Wednesday afternoon, I'll probably go straight to the Rugby Sevens. So that may be quite interesting for people to see someone with a Handball Skanalen and Sweden accreditation at the Rugby Sevens. But hey, as long as I get in there, I'll be happy. But really looking forward to the games and looking forward to this tournament as well. And I think what we're going to do here is have a little preview of all the competing teams. And I remember when the qualification tournaments were happening, Alex, we were maybe a little bit disheartened by the lack of breadth in the tournament when it comes to the non-European teams. But when it comes down to just 12 teams competing for these medals, I think there's still a lot to be excited about here.
I think so. It's really cutthroat from the very start. And that's what makes it exciting. And when you look at these groups, they're just, for once in a handball tournament, people are fighting for their life immediately. Despite there being kind of 4 out of the 6 teams qualifying for the quarterfinals in these groups, there's more than 4 good teams, and the matchup on the other side definitely makes a huge difference. We're talking about Denmark and France being in the same group. If you're finishing 3rd and 4th in the other group, you're going to struggle. That's the case on the men's side. Again, on the women's side, same scenario. You want to avoid the big teams. So it all matters. It's all pressure from the first game. It's condensed. It's going to be raucous. There's going to be a huge arena in Lille that's going to be filled. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. And as always, this is the Olympics are a period where, a lot of people discover handball again at times. But for people who don't regularly follow the sport, it's just such a captivating sport to flick on. We've all done it, and we will all be doing it over the Olympics, where you're flicking around just to see what's the sport to watch, whether it's speed climbing or breakdancing, which is in this Olympics, which I am particularly interested to check out. But there are sports that really stand out, and handball is always one of those for people, and they tend to really get absorbed in the game. So that's going to be exciting.
And hopefully there's some of you listening right now who are just deciding, gonna catch up on the old handball here and see who's who before these Olympic Games. So that's what we're going to do, a little bit of a broad intro into it. And we'll start on the men's side with Group A. And just to run through the group super quick for you, we have Spain, Croatia, Germany, Slovenia, Sweden, and Japan. Top 4 in every group head on to the quarterfinals. We'll start at the top here, and Spain, which continues to flabbergast me, this squad. And I mean, is it time to write off Spain, Alex? It feels like the question at the beginning of every tournament.
Sick
with
of
this team. Like one thing that really stood out to me just a few days ago, Jorge Maqueda, has been brought into the squad. Another right back brought in for Johan Caneas, who was out due to injury. So you have a team now which has 3 right backs, 2 young lads as playmakers, and Agustin Casado and Danny Dushabayev as left backs. Agustin Casado and Danny Dushabayev as left backs does not scream to me Olympic bronze medal, which is clearly what they're going to end up with. So why is this the case?
I think there's a little turnaround in the squad. There is, the likes of Casado, Tarafeta, Garcianda, Caldi, Adriazzol, Daniel Fernandez, Javier Rodriguez. These are kind of players that have come through in the last couple of years into this squad, and while they're not at the absolute highest level, they are very solid players. You joke about Casado, but he is the starting left back for Vesprem. It's not really a joke. So
it is a very solid squad. Maybe not. It doesn't really excite, but you know that they're going to find a way to grind out results.
Yeah, I'm actually, I'm more positive on the squad than usual. That just because the likes of Vera Marish and Gideon Guardiola have not been called in, that would depress me. Seeing as this Spain team is in this in between. Obviously, we know that there is an absolute swath of talent that's going to come into this team over the next couple of years, with even Petr Čekusa now being called up as a reserve to this Olympics after claiming a gold medal in the under-20s championship. So the young talent in Spain is there to replenish the squad, but this year may not be the year for them to really challenge at the very top. But it's Spain. Who knows?
Croatia in the group alongside them. Big headline here is the fact that Dagger Sigurdsson has, since the last tournament, come in as head coach, which is super exciting. And in his first game, he'll be facing the team he was the coach of just a few months ago, Japan. But Sigurdsson came in, guided them to Olympic qualification. And if we look back to just a few months ago at the Euro, It was a team we were really excited about heading into the main round of that Euro before some injuries and maybe a little bit of inexperience caught up with them. What do you think of their kind of form or chances heading into this?
It does feel like, as you said, Sigurdsson came in, Croatia made a huge impression. They got through this qualifying round, and then since then, they've played a lot of friendly games to kind of in the build up to this, and haven't really been at the highest level. It's this kind of, and by not being at the highest level, I mean they've lost pretty easily to the likes of France, Denmark, and Norway, and kind of scraped wins against Argentina, and okay, I suppose an impressive win against Egypt there as well. But it does seem like it's probably a little bit too early for this Croatia team and Sigurdsson as a coach. They've done an incredible job. They got that new coach, new manager bounce, but it's a team filled with talent that's probably going to make life very difficult for a lot of teams in this championship. But I just don't think they'll have had enough training. They'll have had enough time together with Sigurdsson to really make a full stab at a championship. And what we're talking about here, I'm taking every question you're throwing at me as, can they win a medal? And I think Croatia probably do have a chance of doing it, but I just think it's a little bit early compared to someone like Germany that's in their group, which is, I would say, a little bit the opposite of Croatia. This is a squad that has been together for a while now, is a coach that's really brought this team and is getting them going, but actually maybe a little bit less talented. What are your thoughts on Germany?
I think I agree with that, and seeing as these sides have faced off against each other a couple of times this year, and I cast my mind back to like the big win that Croatia had in a little bit of a dead rubber in the Euro, but Germany coming off that massive EHF Euro at home, which was I think a great success in terms of the tournament, and Germany being the best of the rest, getting to the semi-finals and being just outside of the top three. They've made some interesting choices, which Alfred Gislason, has made some interesting choices, which I under no circumstances would doubt he knows exactly what he's doing with these choices. But as players like Marian Michalczyk, who's come in a center left back role, maybe as a defender as well. Luka Vitska has taken a big jump, I think, into maybe the second playmaker position in there. Marko Grgic has been a bolter at the age of 20 as a left back, and a right back position of Renar Sushchins, who really only came onto the scene in the semi-final of the Euro in January, and Franz Semper, who has been riddled with injuries and at the age of 27 only has 18 caps under his name. So by no means has it been like a conservative squad selection by Gislason. He's really kind of made some potentially risky decisions in there, but clearly decisions that he really believes in, and has already made this quite a different looking Germany side compared to January. That maybe brings my confidence in kind of the tried and tested German approach, which was not pretty at all in January, but somehow they still got to a semi-final, to maybe a bit more exciting and a random German approach, which I think we can all subscribe to. I think anything better, anything different to January is going to be better in our books there.
I do think Renar Sushchins changed Germany's fortunes in that championship, and as you said, he made them more exciting, more interesting, and I think this backcourt that they have, this very young backcourt of Knorr, Kuster, and Ustjens, 24, 24, and 22, there's just something there. It's all a little bit weird. We've talked about Knorr kind of stagnating a little bit, pressure getting to him. Kuster keeps improving, but not at a stratospheric rate that you would hope. He kind of jumped onto the scene and has been steadily improving as a player as opposed to really taking over as a star. And Ushkins was, definitely a star in the latter stages. So there's something really exciting there. It's a true next generation. And I feel like, it could be now that they start clicking.
And the rest of the squad is exciting as well. You think about like the goalkeepers, Andreas Wolf and David Spaeth. And there, the wingers I think are very solid, like Mertens and Hornke. You've got Magdeburg's wingers there, and then Gola and Kohlbacher as the line players. Like really solid squad. The backcourt maybe the wild card there. Just one other thing I think might have an effect, and maybe is the reason for some of the new blood coming in, is that all except for Wolf have played in the Bundesliga this season. It's now become a very long, like almost a 13-month season for these players. And I wonder if they will actually be at the height of their powers, like physically, to deal with 7 matches in 2 weeks for them. But moving on, do you want to take Japan, the only non-European side in this group? Antonio Carlos Ortega has taken over as coach.
It's a pretty nice last-minute substitution. We, of course, talked about Dagger Sigurdsson and his decision kind of last minute to jump ship from a very successful project in Japan, who he managed to get qualified for the Olympics. Absolutely amazing achievement to jump to Croatia last minute as he saw, the brighter future ahead for that team. Antonio Carlos Ortega, a proven winner, comes in. I think of all teams, you can't just take over Japan. And, in the same way that Sigurdsson was able to come into Croatia and very quickly kind of adapt and make them play in a style that, kind of fits him, fits the team, and is known by every player and the coach. You can't really just do that with Japan. Japan have their own style. Japan have their own kind of physical attributes, their speed, their really interesting movements that they do. There's so many kind of so much off the ball movement, so much reverse passing that's ingrained in the Japanese handball style, and has been developed by Sigurdsson. I don't think you can just bring in a coach and say, okay, let's take this team onwards. Of course, Carlos Ortega would have done his research, very meticulous as a coach, to hopefully not derail what this Japan team has, but because they needed that little bit more to be able to, qualify out into the quarterfinals, which I say is probably their goal. They probably, they were at a good level, but they needed a little bit more. And I think they've taken a step back with losing Sigurdsson, and a step back that I unlikely they'll be able to overcome. That's my thought.
Like a little bit like with Croatia, we can forgive some of the pre-tournament test results for them because they are I guess they are trying a lot of things with the new coach and trying to develop. I would be worried about it though. It was like a 10-goal loss to Germany, 12-goal loss to Argentina, 7-goal loss to Egypt. 3 very good teams, but in all cases kind of quite comprehensively beaten. I guess if there is one nationality of coach you want to bring in for a team like that, in terms of understanding, shorter, speedy, kind of good one-on-one players, it would be Spain, but Japan, a Spanish coach in Ortega, but Japan are a little bit different in that way. They're not relying solely on individual stuff. In fact, they're relying very much on the collective there. I'm just very hesitant to rule out any non-European team here after Bahrain's performance at the last Olympics. This is the ultimate. I mean, it's the ultimate for all of these teams, but it feels like the few non-European teams there have a little bit. They can create more time for themselves to develop and to build up for these Olympics. So I think Japan will cause a shock or two, but I don't think it'll be enough to finish in the top 4 in this group. It's it's a very evenly fought group.
I do have great news for you,
Tell
Chris.
Me.
Your favorite player is still in the Japanese squad for this championship. Your boy, Hiroki Matoki.
Hiroki Matoki, the best name in handball. Yes. In there at right back. Yeah. Unfortunately, though, the TikTok star is not in there, though. The French Japanese player. He's not in. He's one of the left wing. I think they've only gone for one left wing, which seems to be the style of the time at these Olympic Games.
Moving on to a bit of a surprise package to qualify for the Olympics, that being Slovenia. Slovenia have really been at the top for quite a while. We always kind of underestimate Slovenia just because they're small and they're never really challenging for a medal, but they definitely challenge for a semi-final all the time. They've come in, and it's a great opportunity for some of this kind of older Slovenian generation, the likes of Dolinets and Bombats, to get a chance to hit the Olympics.
Yeah, and I think a group like this, when it's so evenly matched throughout the 6 teams, this is perfect picking for Slovenia to not surprise teams, but to get the wins they need to make it into the quarterfinals. They're probably a team that we overlook far too often, but then, as you said, they're always in the mix for the top 6 or top 4, at least at European level, and occasionally at world level. And the quality they have in there, like Flach, we've seen what he's capable of now at Champions League level 2 years in a row. The players you mentioned, the older generation of Bombats and Dolinets, but then I think that's a big opportunity for Blažiac as well, who is definitely going to have that number 1 spot in the right wing if he wants it, because of Gaspar Margot's not being in there. But as we know, he's capable of playing in every position, and I think just seeing the backcourt they have there, it's what you want to see in this group.
Yeah, they're definitely going to cause some issues against Slovenia team that they play to whatever level that comes up against them. You would say. I have a feeling they're going to have a very, very close game against Japan. But they're also probably going to have a very, very close game against Sweden, who are probably the favourites out of this group. Sweden have consistently been, let's say, the 3rd favourite across many of the championships over the last couple of years. Sometimes coming up on top, but they're the ones we always think of. They can definitely do something against the big favourites in France and Denmark.
And you think about Sweden now, the comparison to the last, particularly the last Euro, where we had this question mark over the dynamic between Felix Klar and Jim Gottfriedson. I think that is almost settled in a way now. I would be surprised if Klar doesn't play in the starting team, whether it is as the left back, as we saw a lot in January, or taking over in the centre if Karlsberg is going to have the 2-way role on the left-hand side. It is now his, this feels like the beginning of the Felix Klar reign for this team, and that really excites me.
Yeah, we're kind of talking about all of these Magdeburg players really leading their team, which is
no surprise.
It is no surprise, seeing as how good Magdeburg have been over the last little while. But has this team stagnated a little bit? That's my question. They're still a team that's full of stars, the likes of Gottfriedson, Klar, Karlsborg, just looking for
the right backs as well, Lagergren and Sandell. That's quite a nice pair in there. Like you would say, solid to very high class.
Erik Jonsson is missing from these Olympic Games. I think he's a big miss for them. He's a little bit of their X factor, or he has been a little bit of their X factor. So they're going to, I think, as you're saying, Felix Klar will probably take up that left back position, and depending on how the defense set up, Karlsborg did show that he has kind of the attack developing for him, especially in his kind of Final Four performance with Barca. So it feels like this is going to be a disappointing Olympics for Sweden. It just does.
Do I need to remind you literally just how close they were to being in the final and beating France? They literally had them in that semi-final. With if it all was just and fair in many people's eyes, would have never gone to extra time. Potentially, yes. I think maybe part of your reasoning for that is like anything but bronze or higher is a disappointment. So there's a long way to fall for this team and very little upside now.
Yeah, I think so. And we've seen kind of in the last championships, silver in 2018, the European champions in 2022. They were third place in 2024. And again, 21 in the World Championships, second, fourth in 2023. So that is their minimum. Semi-final has been their minimum. And when I say disappointment, is that I just have this feeling that they might not quite get to play for a medal that they probably deserve, because all of this, kind of activity for Sweden and their rise to the top has been in this last Olympic cycle. And it hasn't quite felt like it's been building to this, but they do probably deserve something. Again, never winning an Olympic gold, Sweden, even though they had those years of dominance, winning 4 out of 5 European championships, winning a couple of world championships in there, but always the runners-up in the Olympics during that period. 1992, silver medal. 96, silver medal. And 2000, silver medal. 2012, silver medal. So it's a lot of silvers for Sweden in their history. And yeah, maybe I am being too harsh. They have been quite literally centimeters away from beating the world champions, or European champions. So they probably do still have it in them. But I don't know. I feel like they're not going to quite get there. Let's move on to Group B, which is the group that has the 2 best teams in the world in it. Denmark and France, both drawn in the same group, and will be facing off in the opening, not the opening match, but on the opening day of the men's competition. So that will happen on the 27th of July. Denmark and France, of course, 2 teams that have really been at the top of the men's handball world, winning every competition across European World Championship gold medals, really dominating, both facing off. But before we go into them, let's maybe touch on some of the smaller teams in the group, and I say smaller with inverted commas, because we're going to go into Norway. Norway, they're almost like a cousin of Denmark and France. That they're exciting. They've got great players. They have arguably one of the best players in the world, and they've just stagnated a little bit, have become kind of also-rans, but they seem to have a little bit more energy going into this competition.
Yes, and energy in the form of 23-year-old Tobias Grundal, who came to life finally for this team in January, guided them, I think, to qualification in the Olympic qualifiers back in April. And a little bit like we spoke earlier about Sweden with the Klar and Gottfriedson dynamic, I'm really excited to see what will be done with Grøndal and Saugason. I think there is definitely room for both of them in that backcourt, and I think they really need to make it work between the two of them if they're going to make some kind of impact at this championship. Once again, no Magnus Rød. The poor lad is just made of glass at this point. So they're a little bit short when it comes to the right back. Harold Rankind will. He's still capable.
I think he's
very capable. Yeah, he is
good.
He's pretty good.
Right back.
But it feels like the centre and left back is going to be massive for them. And then it comes down to a lot of individual talents that. If everything clicked for them a little bit, like we saw at the Final Four with Barthold and on the right wing, Björnsson, both of them can be world class in their day. The same with Bergerud in goal. Not a team I would trust to do it, every 2 days for 2.5 weeks, but they're gonna come up with some magic before losing in the quarterfinal.
That is the Norwegian way, but just looking at their performance since the European Championship, so they did have a relatively disappointing European Championship going out in the main round, really having the chance to go through, but suffering some pretty poor losses, including a draw against Faroe Islands. Let's not forget about that. But since that European Championship, they've played a qualification tournament for the Olympic Games where they very easily beat Portugal and Hungary, two very good teams, and dominated Tunisia. Quite dominant performance, and that's where we really saw Tobias Grøndal come out as a sparring partner for Sander Sagosen, who we all know what Sander Sagosen brings. And then again, let's not put too much into international friendlies, but a draw against Denmark, a win against Croatia, and a win against Spain are not results to just completely ignore. It feels like there's a bit of momentum with this Norwegian team, and I'm just going to fool myself again by putting my heart in this Norway team. Time and time again, they disappoint me, but will the era of Grøndal together with Sagosen instead of fucking Gøran Johannesson, that is the difference here, and I think there's something more exciting about Grøndal and Sagosen.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm here for it. You mentioned Hungary there, who they beat in that qualification tournament. Hungary came off the back of, now a couple of really good major championships, like top 8 placements at the World Championship 2 years ago, or last year, and then the Euro earlier this year. A bit of an end of a generation for the likes of Lekaj, who's 36 now, and I just have to see here, is Mikler in the squad? He's not. So already one big name not in there, but Lekaj, together with a whole new swathe of players who really excited us back in January. It's a team that, if you weren't reminded of how well they played in January, you might be likely to just kind of write them off already.
Yeah, they don't really have any stars, which is a little bit strange, based on their performances in the championships. Their biggest star at this stage is probably Ben Sabanhidi, but even he hasn't been, the line player who's dominated so much. He hasn't been at his very best for a little while for Szeged. So there's just an incredible job done by Chema Rodriguez as the coach to kind of unite this team, get them clicking, get them fast. I think that's been a big difference. They still do have the big shooters of Bodo and Anshin, but I'm excited to see what Gergo Fazekas has to bring us in this championship. Him along with Benza Imre were two young stars that kind of have developed over the last year. So it feels like there's a natural space for Gergo Fazekas, who was wonderful for Wisla Plock towards the end of the season, to kind of step in and do something pretty special for this Hungarian team. But again, it's tied at the top. Very difficult to know where exactly this team will land.
And it is... Do you think this is a tougher group of the two in that sense for a team like Hungary?
I think for Hungary, they're competing against like four incredible teams here. Denmark and France, of course, Norway and Egypt. We've had a little cycle without a world championship. So we haven't seen Egypt play kind of up close as much as we had in the previous years. But Egypt are a team that have continued to improve. They took fourth place in Tokyo in 2020. And then, really, while their positions in the World Championships of 21 and 23 say 7th, they really, they really challenge the top teams. They probably deserve a medal for the performances over these years. And, they're probably the biggest chance for a non-European team to win an Olympic medal on the men's side in quite a long while.
And it feels like we've been waiting for the backcourt of Yahya Omar, Yahya Eldara and Ahmed Hasham to finally be together, because over the last few years each of them has been out with injury. All three of them now in the squad. I think Hasham has probably got a fairly big question mark over him because he's quite fresh, back fully fit from that ACL injury. But particularly having Omar, I mean, they did so well last year at the World Championship without him. He is the key player in this, and I think he in Tokyo had a massive tournament. I feel like he could be one of the early potential MVPs for this, kind of the dark horse MVP.
I would almost say that Yahya Eldara is the player that's kind of more likely to be a leader, or like to inherit this leader title for this Egypt team. He had a really, really good season with Vesprem and a full season with Vesprem at the highest level, while Omar, of course, coming back from a pretty difficult injury, a ACL, and then kind of working back into the team, being out of favour with coach in Vesprem, seeing as he's moving to PSG next year. So Eldara had more of a vital role for Vesprem this season and could have a vital role for Egypt in this championship. And this team is it's a really good mix of the likes of Omar and Eldara really getting to their handball peak in terms of 26 years old for Yahya Omar, 29 for Eldara, while still their older generation is not that old. You have Ali Zain is only 33, Mohamed Sanad is only 33, and Mamdou on the line 35. So they're still in their peak as well, and there's a really nice sweet spot for this Egyptian team.
I think the goalkeeper position is one is a little worrying there for me. Not that I underestimate them, just the relative levels they're playing at. Karim Hendawi playing in Saudi Arabia at the moment, and Muhammad Ali in Bietigheim.
Muhammad Ali, I love it.
They're our great non-European hope.
we love to see a non-European nation, and this tournament, I was just trying to think back. We just talked about Slovenia, and I was like, why did I have such a bitter feeling against Slovenia for some reason? I've always liked Slovenia. It's because they knocked out Brazil and Bahrain, two really great non-European teams that can compete. I was really annoyed at that, even though Brazil shot themselves in the foot. But Egypt have been the big non-European hope, and of course, it just could be quite vital for handball for Egypt to get a medal. One of the criticisms in the Olympics has been that it's too European focused, and that there's not enough of an international element to handball as a sport. And the discussions of handball potentially dropping out of the Olympics really stemming from that. So a nice gold medal for Egypt would do wonders for that statement.
Is there any hope for Argentina, Alex?
Argentina, while they have been continue to be kind of there and thereabouts in big championships, they're a level down from every team in this group, and potentially even every team in this whole championship. It'll be a send-off for... Let's see, I'm just going to check. I always check how many Simone brothers are present
I think
at a
there's
championship.
only one left.
And there's only one
Diego.
left. Only Diego's left for Argentina, which does, let's say, spell the next stage of the Argentinian team. But, no, there's two. There's two Simones.
Oh, Pablo's there. I forgot Pablo.
Pablo Simone at the age of 32.
Sorry, Pablo. Yeah.
Sebastian Simone is the one that's missing. So two Simone brothers is enough to cause a team to sweat in this group, but ultimately I don't think they have the star power or just the starting lineup to really compete at this level. But it'll be interesting to see how their game against France goes. You're already at the Olympics, and you're hearing some bad blood continuing to spill over in that rivalry.
Yeah, I've just been. We're recording here. I'm in the Stade de France. Just been watching the rugby sevens, and without even Argentina playing against France, the French fans had no hesitation in whistling and booing pretty much any time the Argentine players did anything well. So I have a feeling that could be something that continues, particularly in the team sports.
Yeah, that of course stems from the controversy of the Argentinian football national team, who, after winning Copa America, sang a really horrific song about France and the makeup of their team. Look up what Enzo Fernandez streamed live on his Instagram to get more detail on that. But let's just say the French people have a right to be angry at the Argentinian football team, but maybe not the Argentinian handball team, who have always been just a fun, great, exciting nation. So hopefully it doesn't turn over into bad blood.
And particularly with Diego Simone, who I think most French handball fans would be quite enamored with, regardless of their which club they would belong to. I think he's given them a lot of entertainment and a lot to smile about over the years. But onto the two big dogs. We spoke a lot about France in our previous chat with Jan Hildwein, particularly about Karabatic and the build-up for this team. How are you feeling about its composition?
It's a really nice team. France have an incredible backcourt. It's really in terms of pure excitement, ingenuity, it has everything. We have Dika Mem, arguably the best player in the world. Power, very precise and great decision making as well for Dika Mem. We got Remily, who It was interesting about our chat with Jan. He came through and kind of styled himself on Nikola Karabatic, which I really do see now. The kind of going from the right back to a playmaker, maybe being a slight bit inefficient, but just being a winner. Prandi is ready to take off, literally and figuratively, as a star for this French team. He can jump out the roof and he's going to do it. And then just Melvin Richardson comes through and is the MVP of the Champions League Final Four. So you have those four guys just playing together, and they've played together for so long. They know how to play with each other. It's just, how do you stop that? And then you have Fabregas. Like, this, it's incredible. It's exciting. It's incredible, and it's going to be a challenge to see who out of them and Denmark will win in that first game, and whether they can handle the pressure. I wonder if that's really the what can happen here. You know, this French team, of course, home championship. They've been thinking and talking about it for such a long time. The Olympics looming over them. They, you know, with a chance to really make a big impact at the biggest stage in their home country. If they lose the first game dramatically, for example, can they recover from that?
I'm going to wait a couple of games before discussing the goalkeeper position there, because I feel like, in contrary to what Jan told us yesterday about potentially, you know, a keeper making 20 saves making the difference, it could be a keeper making 3 saves out of 20 making the difference here in a big game for France. Which is probably not something Denmark have to worry about, with easily the best goalkeeper pairing in the sport at the moment, with Nicolas Landin, flag bearer for Denmark, and the real MVP of the Final Four in June, Emil Nielsen.
With Denmark, I can pretty much say the same thing that I said about France. Same with their backcourt. It's exciting. But they do have that edge on the goalkeepers. It's just an incredible squad. They're just two incredible teams, and the emergence of Thomas Arnoldsen, I think, is a big relief for Denmark, because for a long while, you know, we've seen these two absolute superstars in Gitzel and Putlik emerge at the highest level. You know, the left and right backs who are just so dynamic and incredible. But it felt like they needed Mikkel Hansen to still steer them at the right time, at the highest level. They really needed Hansen. And that has been the case for Denmark, and it's worked for them. But with Mikkel Hansen now retiring after this final competition, I didn't see a route to a playmaker who could replace Hansen. I didn't see who could kind of rein in these two spinning tops in Gisela and Putlik. And it just might be 22-year-old Thomas Arnoldsen, who had a really amazing season for Aalborg, leading them to the Champions League final. And yeah, I think he can take on the mantle and have maybe a quite similar kind of playing tempo as they did have in Aalborg between Hansen and Arnoldsen, where, you know, Hansen is used as like a specialized weapon to slice through at the right important moment, but it's Arnoldsen who is really the taking the brunt of the action over a pretty intense schedule for this competition.
Yep.
We're not going to do predictions yet, Chris.
No.
Nah.
Let's wait till round 2 or 3.
Yeah, this is your introduction to the Olympics. Welcome one and all. If you have never heard of handball, and if you subscribe to our Patreon, both welcome to hear what's going on. But we will spend a little bit of time on the women's side, and that really is the unique thing about the Olympics, where you do have a men's tournament happening at the very exact time as a women's competition. Both in handball, both genders really being respected at the highest level. On the women's side, we might not go into as much detail, seeing as the first game will probably be played by the time you listen to this podcast. We do see, on a general term, let's do tiers. Let's do tiers of teams. We know that on the women's side, it's quite a similar situation as the men's. I would say it's actually quite a parallel. France are France, and both the men's side and the women's side. They're at the highest level. Probably the incumbent on the men's side, but the kind of the new challenger on the women's side. France, of course, winning the last World Championship. Norway being the incumbent, replicating just the pure level of skill and squad depth that Denmark have on the men's side. And really, these two teams, Norway and France, are the two big nations. They've played each other many times. They've split a lot of finals and big games, and they've just had a joint training camp to see who exactly can survive this gauntlet. I would still put probably Denmark on the women's side as the equivalent of Sweden on the men's side, where they're definitely the third best team, and they've challenged at the highest level. You've done a good story on, we've talked about the retiring legends, and one legend that will be playing her last game is Stina Oftedal. We have talked about her in previous podcasts, but just worth definitely mentioning her and the legacy she's behind.
And I think I mentioned in the article on Go Handball that compared to the two men, the legends that are retiring here in Hansen and Karabatic, she is not past her peak. She is going out literally at the top here, deciding that in her early to mid 30s that she is stepping away from the sport, sees the Olympic Games as the perfect time to do that. Managed to finish her club career with the Champions League title just 2 months ago, and it's the storyline here for Norway and this generation of players is that they have not been able to get their hands on the gold at the Olympics. They've won the Euro so many times, they've won the World Championship so many times, but there's a whole generation of players who've only got a pair of bronzes to their name, and that really stings for this team, because just before that generation came to the fore, they won in 2008, they won in 2012, and since then they haven't reached the final. So I think that for me is probably the most intriguing part about this, that if she manages to do it, and if they manage to do it, Norway as well, could actually see a wave of players deciding, no, that'll do. Well, we do know for a fact that she's going out at the end of this one. And I also put a piece out kind of, talking about the this, jostling for position, this second tier of teams. And Denmark are ahead of the pack a little bit in that sense, but for Denmark, they are also in their first Olympics in a long time for this generation. They hadn't qualified for the last couple, so I think that maybe brings them down a little bit into the realms of Netherlands, Germany, Sweden and Hungary. So there I see like 5 teams literally in that kind of hunting pack behind the top 2, and for me that is really exciting. And below that then, there's 3 teams who are not bad at all in Slovenia, Spain and Brazil. So really there is there's going to be some teams that get knocked out who probably saw themselves as having an outside chance of a semi-final spot. And for me, that's quite exciting in this women's competition.
In terms of the groups, either of these groups really stand out for you as being more difficult than the other?
So Group A, Norway, Germany, Slovenia, Sweden, Denmark and South Korea. With 4 of those 5 teams going through, the European teams, and South Korea, you never know with them. Like, we know they always try to peak for the Olympics, but it feels like the days of going away and doing your own thing just doesn't work anymore like it did in the 80s and 90s for the team. You're never going to count them out. But yeah, the fact that Germany or Slovenia or maybe even Sweden won't qualify from that group does make it a bit of a group of death. Group B, I think, is a lot more even from second place downwards. We only have to go back to December to see that France scraped past Angola in the opening game of their championship. Literally, they were lucky to come away with a win there. Brazil were a whisker away from the quarterfinal, and were like pretty much on par with Spain. So that one, I think they'll be. If France get off to a quick start, they probably will win all the games in that group. But then it'll be a bunch of teams, on 4, 5, and 6 points at the end of it. So I think that will be more exciting until the end of the group for the whole group. Whereas there will be 1 or 2 knockout matches towards the end of Group A.
Yeah, and it's the women's side as well that we see a lot of the flag bearers. That just reminded me because Angolan flag bearer will be a handball player. I think is there 5
in total? Yes. Do you want to try and guess them all?
I'm pretty sure I read your article. I don't remember them all.
Only we know from Jan that Karabatic could have been, but his match fixing has come back to bite it. But Niklas Landin is the only man to do it with Denmark. Then it's Lois Abing for the Netherlands, Blanca Biro from Hungary, Azeneda Carlos from Angola, who's got a lot of Champions League experience, right back, and then Anna Gross, friend of the show, probably is gonna, no matter what happens, have the time of her life in Paris and hopefully Lille as well for Slovenia.
Yeah, really a great testament to what the sport of handball means on the women's side as well, and what it's been for such a long time. That each countries would trust their full Olympic teams with some handball players, and really just have to, like, across all of these teams, I think it's just such a privilege for most of the players on both the men's and women's side to be there. You mentioned Anna Gross, and what I've started doing this week is starting to follow just a lot of athletes on Instagram and social media, and trying to, there's a lot of interesting things going on, including I've seen at least 7 videos where people try to debunk the anti-sex cardboard bed. So I think we're over that one now. The bed is sturdy. You can have sex in it. That's proved by athletes from small sports like diving and quite large sports like weightlifting can be held. So seen both sides. But Anna Gross is a player who's been, at the top of the handball world, at the top of her sport. And this is the first time for Slovenia to participate in the Olympics with her in the team. And there's just this childish smile on her picture with the Olympic rings that this kind of pinch me. I can't believe I'm here. And that's really the beauty of these Olympic Games. They we have handball championships every year. So qualifying for a World Cup or European Championship is maybe not the huge privilege as it is in other sports, but the Olympics plays such a special role for a lot of these players, and a lot of these kind of second level teams, which are still incredible teams, are full of players that might only experience this once. And then you have someone like Karabatic who's going to a 6th. So you have a full range.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, that is the end of our preview of the Olympic Games and handball at the Olympic Games. We did try to make this quite a general podcast, not giving you an overview. So if someone comes to you and asks, hey, what's this handball game that I'm seeing at the Olympics? Point them to the Uninformed Handball Hour and say, listen to that. You'll get all your details for the championship. So that's for anyone new. For anyone who wants to hear a lot more about the Olympics as they go through over the next 3 weeks, Patreon's the place to be. Patreon.com/handball hour. Sign up to be a patron. We will have bonus podcasts. We'll have bonus podcasts coming to you almost every 2-3 days. Chris is going to be on the ground. He already has interviews booked with Carlos Ortega, who's the new Japanese coach. So that's to look forward to. That will be all available on the Patreon. We'll, of course, keep bringing out some of the free ones, but if you really want the in-depth information on the Olympics, Patreon's the place to be. You can sign up. You'll also get access to our Discord, which is a really great community of handball nerds in there talking about every game that's going on, analysing things. You know, have you ever sat there at home and just had opinions about handball and the match you're watching? Like, what the hell is Nadine Remily doing shooting here? Well, you can write that into the Discord and there'll be a bunch of people that will probably have the same opinion or completely different one. That's the beauty of it.
And we all know, Alex, that the Olympic Games are when everyone suddenly has opinions about every sport and becomes an expert after 15 minutes.
Exactly. So perfect place for it.
There's a place to share it.
Exactly. So you join our Patreon and you'll get a link to the Discord to have chats throughout the games. And lastly, we also have a fantasy league going on holdit.dk, which is a Danish fantasy league website. But with that on Patreon, if you sign up to our Patreon, you can join our mini league. It's just for the men's competition that the tournament is. The fantasy league is available. So if you join that, you can join our mini league and have a chance to win some fantastic prizes, mainly being the Handball Hour mug or a fantastic piece of Olympic memorabilia that Chris finds on the street somewhere. So all of that is available for just $3 a month. You can give us $6, you can give us $9, whatever you want. But for just $3, you get access to everything I talked about. And, you know, it's going to get pretty exciting pretty fast in these Olympics. So do sign up now. Follow us for competition. Thank you for everyone who's supported us to date. Yeah, Chris, get some sleep. The Olympics are already on.
Let's do it. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. Catch you in a few days. Goodbye.